She woke to silk sheets that weren't hers, a diamond chandelier she'd never seen, and the scent of gunpowder mixed with expensive cologne. Then she saw him standing in the doorway, the man every gang in Seoul feared, watching her with eyes that said she was already his. Happy's heart slammed against her ribs as fragments of last night returned. The party, the drink, his hand catching her before she fell, and the way he'd whispered her name like a prayer and a threat. When Han Sung-joon stepped closer, his voice was velvet and venom. "You're not leaving this house until I know you're safe," and something inside her shattered and awakened all at once. Welcome to Afrokorea TV. Please like, share, and subscribe. The morning light cut through floor-to-ceiling windows like an interrogation lamp. Happy's head throbbed, her mouth tasted like regret and expensive champagne, and absolutely nothing about this room belonged to her modest life as a secretary at Kim and Associates law firm. The bed was massive, wrapped in Italian sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Abstract art that screamed, money laundering front, decorated walls the color of smoke and secrets. She sat up too fast and the room tilted. That's when she saw him. Han Sung-joon stood by the window, a dark silhouette against Seoul's glittering skyline, wearing last night's shirt with the sleeves rolled up and dried blood, whose blood spattered across the collar. He didn't turn around, but his shoulders tensed like he could feel her gaze crawling across the distance between them. "You're awake," he said, voice like gravel and silk. Still not looking at her. "Good. We need to talk about last night." Happy's stomach dropped. Fragments crashed through her mind. The law firm's anniversary party, too many cocktails, stumbling in her heels, strong arms catching her, a car that smelled like leather and danger, whispered words in Korean she couldn't understand, and heat. God, so much heat between them it should have set the world on fire. What happened? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "Why am I here?" Finally he turned. The morning light hit his face, and Happy's breath caught despite the terror flooding her veins. He was beautiful in the way hurricanes were beautiful, devastating, impossible to look away from, carved from some cruel god's fantasy of masculine perfection. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that had seen too much death, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled, but when it did, women probably wept. And right now that mouth was pressed into a hard line. "You don't remember." It wasn't a question. He moved toward the bed, each step measured, predatory. "The men who followed you from the party. The knife one of them pulled. The way you looked at me when He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "I brought you here because it was safer than your apartment. They know where you live, Happy." The sound of her name in his mouth sent electricity down her spine. How did he know her name? Why did it sound like a confession? "Who are you?" she whispered, even though some instinct whispered she already knew. His lips curved into something too dark to be a smile. "You've worked for Kim and Associates for 2 years. Your boss represents half of Seoul's criminal underworld. And you're telling me you don't recognize Han Sung-joon?" The name hit her like a slap. Oh God. Oh God. She was in the house of the man her boss defended, the man prosecutors couldn't touch, the man newspapers called the Phantom because he orchestrated crimes that left no evidence and no witnesses. Her boss had gotten him acquitted on racketeering charges last month, and she'd filed the paperwork, typed the motions, never once seeing his face. Until last night. "I should go," she said, already swinging her legs out of bed. She was still wearing her party dress. Thank God, though her shoes were missing, and her hair was a disaster. "Thank you for whatever you did, but I need to leave."
No.
The single word stopped her cold. He was closer now, close enough that she could smell him, sandalwood, smoke, and something metallic that might have been blood. "You're not safe. The men who came after you work for the Jade Serpents. They thought targeting you would hurt Kim, get him to back off a case. Now that they've made a move, they won't stop." Happy's hands shook. "That's not my problem. I'm just a secretary. I file papers and answer phones. Nobody cares about me. I care." The words came out rough, like they'd been dragged from somewhere deep and dangerous inside him. His hand lifted, hesitated, then tucked a curl behind her ear with devastating gentleness. "I cared the moment I saw you fall. I cared when I killed a man who tried to touch you. And I'll keep caring until you're safe, even if you hate me for it. Her breath stopped. You killed someone? 3 someones. He said it like he was commenting on the weather. They won't be found. And the Jade Serpents now know that you're under my protection, which means they'll either back off or escalate. Either way, you're staying here until I'm certain. The next day brought a strange new reality. Happy woke in the same massive bed, alone this time, to find clothes laid out for her. Designer clothes in her exact size, from brands she'd only seen in magazines. A note in sharp handwriting. Wear whatever you want. Breakfast is downstairs. Don't try to leave. She chose the simplest option, a black dress that still probably cost a fortune, and ventured into the penthouse. It was decorated like a villain's lair in a movie. Modern, minimalist, expensive, and somehow deeply lonely despite the luxury. Abstract art, leather furniture, a kitchen that looked unused, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of Seoul that made her dizzy. And in the kitchen, Han Sung-joon stood cooking. Actually cooking. Wearing a black t-shirt that showed off arms corded with muscle and decorated with tattoos that disappeared under the sleeves. He moved with practiced efficiency, flipping something in a pan, and didn't look up when she entered. You cook. The question slipped out. I live alone. He plated eggs, rice, kimchi, and perfectly grilled fish with the precision of someone who did everything precisely. Sit. She sat, mostly because her knees felt weak. He placed the plate in front of her, poured coffee without asking how she took it, and somehow got it exactly right. Cream, 1 sugar. Then he sat across from her, eating in silence, his eyes tracking every movement she made. How long do I have to stay here? Happy asked, picking at the food. It was delicious, which annoyed her. Until it's safe. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. His gaze pinned her in place. I don't take chances with things that matter. I'm not a thing, she snapped. I'm a person. A person with a job and a life and a target on your back. He leaned forward, all pretense of civility gone. They know your name, Happy. They know where you work, where you live, what time you leave for your morning coffee. I've had men watching you for 2 weeks, trying to figure out their plan. Last night they moved. If I hadn't been there. 2 weeks. Her voice climbed. You've been stalking me for 2 weeks? Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or shame. Protecting you. Without asking. Would you have said yes? He stood abruptly, chair scraping against marble. Would you have believed me if I'd walked up to you and said your life was in danger? Or would you have called the police, filed a restraining order, and gotten yourself killed within 48 hours? The truth of it stung. She wouldn't have believed him. She would have thought he was crazy or dangerous or both. And now she was trapped in his penthouse, eating his food, wearing his clothes, while her entire world crumbled outside these walls. I want to call my roommate, she said quietly. She'll be worried. Han Sung-joon pulled out a phone, not hers, and handed it over. 5 minutes. Don't tell her where you are. The call was brief, painful. Happy lied through her teeth, said she was staying with a friend for a few days, promised she was fine. Her roommate Mia sounded skeptical, but didn't push. When Happy hung up, she felt the weight of the lie settle in her chest like a stone. By the end of the week, a routine had emerged. Han Sung-joon left every morning, disappeared into whatever criminal empire he ran, and returned every evening with groceries, takeout, or sometimes nothing but blood on his knuckles and shadows in his eyes. He cooked for her when he was home, worked silently in his office when he wasn't, and watched her with an intensity that made her skin burn. They didn't talk much, but the silence was loud with everything unspoken. Happy tried to maintain normalcy. She worked remotely, telling her boss she had a family emergency. She read books from Han Sung-joon's extensive library, classics, philosophy, poetry in 3 languages. She discovered he had a secret sweet tooth when she found a stash of expensive chocolates hidden behind legal documents. She learned he spoke Korean, English, Japanese, and Mandarin fluently. She noticed he never slept more than 4 hours and had nightmares that made him wake up reaching for a gun. And she absolutely, definitely, was not falling for him. Except she was. It happened in small moments. The way he remembered she didn't like seafood and ordered around it. How he left post-it notes reminding her to eat when he had to leave early. The night she couldn't sleep and found him on the balcony, and he'd wrapped his jacket around her shoulders without a word, the fabric still warm from his body. The morning she'd woken crying from a nightmare about the attack, and he'd appeared in her doorway, asking nothing, just staying until the sun came up. But the moment everything changed came later that night. She was reading in the living room when he came home, and this time he was hurt. Blood soaked through his shirt, his face was bruised, and he moved like every step cost him. Jesus, Happy breathed, book falling forgotten. What happened? Nothing. He tried to wave her off, but she was already there, hands hovering over the damage, afraid to touch. Happy, I'm fine. You're bleeding. I've had worse. That's not comforting. She grabbed his arm, dragged him toward the bathroom despite his protests. Sit down. Now. He obeyed, which scared her more than the blood. She found the first aid kit. Of course he had one, probably used it weekly, and started cleaning the wound on his side. It was a knife slash, shallow but long, and every time she touched it, he hissed. Sorry, she whispered. Don't apologize. His voice was strained. You shouldn't have to do this. Then stop getting stabbed. Her hands shook as she applied antiseptic. What happened? Who did this? Jade Serpents sent a message. I sent one back. His jaw clenched. It's handled. Handled. She laughed, but it came out broken. You're bleeding in my hands, and it's handled. God, this is insane. This whole situation is insane. I should be terrified of you. You should be. His hand caught hers, stilling her movement. I'm not a good man, Happy. I've killed people. I've done things that would give you nightmares. You should run from me the first chance you get. She looked up, met his eyes, and saw something raw and desperate there. Then why do I feel safer with you than I've ever felt anywhere else? The air between them turned molten. His free hand came up, cupped her face with devastating gentleness, thumb brushing her cheek. Because you're the only person in this city who looks at me and doesn't see a monster. I see a man, she whispered, who's been taking care of me, who cooks me breakfast and leaves me notes and stays awake to make sure I'm safe. I see you, Sungjun. Not the reputation. You. He made a sound, half growl, half groan, and pulled her closer. Their faces were inches apart, his breath warm against her lips, the entire world narrowing to this moment, this man, this impossible thing blooming between them. I'm going to kiss you, he said, giving her the choice he'd never had. Tell me no if you don't want this. She didn't say no. She closed the distance instead, and when their lips met, it felt like falling and flying at the same time. The kiss was desperate, searching, like they were both trying to find something they'd lost before they'd ever met. His hands tangled in her hair, hers fisted in his shirt, and the first aid kit scattered across the floor, forgotten. They broke apart breathing hard, foreheads pressed together, and Happy felt tears on her face. She didn't remember crying. This is crazy, she said. Completely. He kissed her again, softer this time, reverent. I don't care. You're a criminal. Yes. I should hate you. Probably. I don't. The confession ripped out of her. God help me, I don't. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her into his lap despite his injury, and they stayed like that, holding each other like the world outside might tear them apart any second. And maybe it would. But right now, in this moment, Happy had never felt more found. The following morning, everything felt different. Happy woke alone again, but this time there was a note on the pillow. Had to handle something. Back tonight. Don't miss me too much. S. She touched the paper, smiled despite herself, and tried to ignore the warmth flooding her chest. This was dangerous. Falling for a man like Han Sungjun was like falling in love with a loaded gun. Beautiful, terrifying, and likely to destroy her. But she was already falling. She spent the day exploring the penthouse more thoroughly. In his office, She found framed photographs hidden in a drawer, a younger Sung-joon with what looked like family, all of them smiling. All of them gone now based on the dates on the back. She found letters written in Korean she couldn't read, medals from military service he'd never mentioned, a sketchbook filled with charcoal drawings so beautiful they made her chest ache. He was a man built from contradictions, killer and artist, monster and protector, feared and desperately lonely. And somehow, impossibly, hers. That evening, he returned with takeout from her favorite restaurant. How did he know? And they ate together on the balcony, watching Seoul's lights flicker to life below. They talked about everything and nothing, her childhood in Ghana, his years in the military, her dreams of becoming a writer someday, his complex relationship with the criminal empire he'd inherited. I never wanted this life, he admitted, staring at the city like it was both kingdom and cage. My father built this organization. When he died, I was 23 and had two choices: take over or watch everything he'd built burn, along with everyone who depended on it. So, I became what I had to become. You're more than that, Happy said softly. I see you. He looked at her then, really looked, and the vulnerability in his eyes made her ache. No one's ever said that before. Then everyone else is blind. He kissed her, slow and deep, and it felt like a promise neither of them could afford to make, but were making anyway. When they pulled apart, his phone buzzed with a message that made his expression darken. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. He stood, already shutting her out, and she felt the distance like a physical wound. Sung-joon. I have to go out. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone. He grabbed his jacket, checked his gun, and the man she'd been kissing disappeared into the phantom the world feared. I'll be back by morning. He was gone before she could argue. A few days later, the fragile peace shattered. Happy woke to shouting outside the penthouse, crashes that sounded like breaking furniture, and Sung-joon's voice raised in fury, a sound that made her blood run cold. She crept to the bedroom door, heart pounding, and heard another voice responding in rapid Korean. Then a woman's voice, sharp and familiar in a way that made Happy's stomach drop. She opened the door a crack and saw them. Sung-joon and a stunning Korean woman in a designer suit, standing too close, her hand on his arm, her expression intimate and possessive. You can't keep avoiding this, the woman said in accented English, clearly for Happy's benefit. Our families have an arrangement. The wedding was agreed upon years ago. You can't throw everything away for some. Her gaze found Happy eyes cold. Distraction. Happy felt like she'd been slapped. Get out, Sung-joon said, voice lethal. We're done, Yuna. We've been done. Your father is dead. He stepped away from her touch like it burned. And I don't honor arrangements made for a life I never wanted. Happy is not a distraction. He stopped, jaw clenched. She's none of your concern. Yuna's smile was poison. She's a secretary. An outsider. She'll never survive in our world, and you know it. How long before you get her killed, Sung-joon? How long before your enemies use her to destroy you? At least I know what I'm getting into. Happy's hands shook. She backed away from the door, ball rising in her throat. The woman was right. This was insane. She didn't belong here, in this world of blood and contracts and arranged marriages. She was a secretary from Ghana living in Seoul, working a normal job, dreaming normal dreams. What was she doing falling for a man who probably had a dozen enemies plotting his death before breakfast? She was packing when Sung-joon found her. Happy. Is it true? She didn't look at him, just kept throwing clothes into a bag with shaking hands. The arranged marriage? It was my father's plan. Not mine. But it exists. Existed. I ended it years ago. He crossed the room, tried to take her hands, but she pulled away. Happy, look at me. Yuna means nothing. She's desperate because her family's empire is crumbling, and she thought marrying me would save it. This isn't, we're not. I need to go home. The words came out broken. This was a mistake. We were a mistake. His face went pale. You don't mean that. I do. Tears burned her eyes. You said yourself, I don't belong in this world. I'm a liability, a distraction, someone your enemies can use to hurt you. The smart thing, the safe thing, is to walk away before I get hurt. Before I get you hurt. I don't care about safe. His voice turned desperate. Happy, please. Don't do this. You should care. She finally looked at him, and the pain in his eyes almost broke her resolve. You should care that keeping me here puts a target on my back. You should care that I'm terrified every time you leave that you won't come back. You should care that I'm falling for you, and it's the stupidest, most dangerous thing I could possibly do. I'm falling too. The confession came out rough, raw. God, Happy, I'm already gone. You think I watch you sleep because I'm being protective? I do it because you're the first peaceful thing I've seen in a decade. You think I leave you notes because it's sweet? I do it because I need you to know you're thought about, cared for, that you matter. You think any of this is casual for me? You're it. You're everything. And I'll burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you. The words hung between them, devastating and true. That's exactly what I'm afraid of, Happy whispered. She left before he could stop her, grabbed her bag, and walked out of the penthouse while he stood frozen, looking destroyed. She made it 3 blocks before the tears came. Made it home to her tiny apartment and her worried roommate and her normal, safe, boring life. And felt like she'd left her heart in a penthouse with a man who loved her enough to let her go. That night, alone in her bed, Happy stared at the ceiling and tried to convince herself she'd made the right choice. She failed. By morning, she'd cried herself dry. Nia had tried to get the story out of her, but Happy couldn't explain. How do you tell someone you fell in love with a mafia boss? That you'd spend a week living in his home, eating his food, letting him protect you, and discovering he was more than the monster the world saw? That walking away from him felt like cutting off a limb? She went to work that day, pretending everything was normal, ignoring the suspicious looks from her boss who definitely knew something had happened. She filed papers, answered phones, made coffee, and tried not to think about Sungjun cooking breakfast, leaving notes, kissing her like she was air and he was drowning. She lasted 3 hours before she broke. In the bathroom, staring at her reflection, Happy admitted the truth. She'd rather be terrified with him than safe without him. She'd rather face whatever dangers his world held than spend another day in this hollow, empty existence pretending she didn't love him. She grabbed her phone, and for the first time in days, it buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Rooftop. Now. Please. S. Her heart stopped, then raced. He was here. At her building. Waiting. Happy ran. She burst onto the rooftop to find him standing at the edge, hands in pockets, looking out over the city like a king surveying a kingdom he'd never wanted. He turned when he heard her, and the devastation on his face made her stumble. I told myself I wouldn't come, he said, voice rough. That I'd respect your choice and let you go. But I can't. I can't let you walk away thinking you don't matter, that this wasn't real, that I don't. He stopped, jaw working. I love you. I'm in love with you. And I know that's selfish and dangerous and probably the worst thing I could say, but it's true. You're the only good thing in my life, Happy. The only light in all this darkness. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe, even if that means staying away. But I needed you to know first. I needed you to understand that letting you go is killing me. Happy's tears came fast and hard. I love you too, she choked out. I love you, and I'm terrified, and I don't know how to do this, but I can't stay away either. I tried. I lasted less than 24 hours before I felt like I was dying. So tell me. She crossed the distance between them, grabbed his jacket, held on like he was the only solid thing in a crumbling world. Tell me how we make this work. Tell me how to survive loving you. His arms came around her, crushing her against his chest, and Happy heard his heart racing as fast as hers. We take it one day at a time, he said into her hair. I protect you. You keep me human. We fight like hell to stay alive. And we don't let anyone, not my enemies, not your fears, not the whole damn world, tear us apart. Promise me, she demanded, pulling back to look at him. Promise me you'll be careful. That you won't take stupid risks. That you'll come home. I promise. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. And you promise me you'll trust me, that you'll let me keep you safe, that when things get bad, and they will get bad, you won't run. I promise. They sealed it with a kiss that tasted like tears and hope and a future that was terrifying and impossible and theirs. Later that night, back in the penthouse, they talked until dawn. Sung-joon explained his world, the alliances, the territories, the enemies. He showed her security protocols, safe houses, people she could trust if something happened to him. He armed her with knowledge the way other men armed themselves with guns, and Happy absorbed every word, understanding that loving him meant accepting all of it. The jade serpents won't stop, he admitted, both of them tangled together on the couch, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her back. And there are others who'll see you as a weakness they can exploit. I have enemies, Happy. Powerful ones. Then we'll handle them together. She tilted her head up, met his eyes. I'm not some fragile thing that'll break at the first sign of trouble. I'm from Ghana. We don't scare easy. His laugh was soft, genuine. No, you definitely don't. So, what's the plan? He hesitated, then said carefully, you move in here. Officially. We make it clear you're under my protection. I assign personal security. People I trust absolutely. You keep working if you want, but from here, remotely. We limit your exposure until the Jade Serpent situation is resolved. And then we live. He said it like it was both simple and revolutionary. We figure out what a life looks like where I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder and you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. We build something real. Happy kissed him, soft and slow. I want that. God, I want that. You'll have it. His arms tightened around her. I'll give you everything, Happy. Safety, stability, a home. You'll never have to be afraid again. She wanted to believe him. And in that moment, wrapped in his arms, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, she almost did. The following morning brought a new normal. Happy officially moved into the penthouse, though moved was generous. Most of her belongings fit in 2 suitcases, a stark contrast to Sung-joon's minimalist luxury. He cleared out closet space, gave her a key, introduced her to his head of security, a stern woman named Minji, who looked like she could kill someone with a paperclip, and treated the whole thing with a seriousness that made Happy's heart ache. This wasn't temporary for him. This was forever. Minji will be with you whenever you leave the building, Sung-joon explained over breakfast, his hand covering hers on the table. She's the best. Former Special Forces, speaks 4 languages, and once took down 6 men who tried to ambush me in Tokyo. Minji nodded, expression unchanged. I don't let people I'm protecting get hurt, Ms. Happy. You're safe with me. Happy tried to smile. Thank you. But I feel bad pulling you away from more important. You are the most important assignment I've ever had, Minji interrupted, glancing at Sung-joon with something that looked like respect. He's never asked me to protect anyone before. That makes you irreplaceable. The weight of that settled over Happy like a blanket, warm and suffocating all at once. A few days later, she discovered what it really meant to be Han Sung-joon's woman. They went out for dinner at an upscale restaurant, Minji trailing discreetly behind, and the moment they walked in, the entire room shifted. Conversation stopped. Eyes tracked them. Whispers followed in their wake like smoke. The maitre d' practically fell over himself seating them at the best table, and throughout the meal, people approached. Business associates, politicians, people who looked both terrified and eager to curry favor with Sung-joon. He handled each interaction with cold efficiency, his hand never leaving hers, his message crystal clear. She's mine. Touch her and die. Does it bother you? Happy asked quietly after the 4th interruption. People staring? I'm used to it. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Does it bother you? I feel like I'm on display. You are. His honesty was brutal, but appreciated. Everyone wants to know who you are, why you matter to me, what they can gain from knowing you. It's exhausting and invasive, and I'm sorry for it. But it's also protection. The more people who know you're mine, the fewer who'll risk touching you. Happy processed that, then said carefully, And the woman from before? Yuna? His jaw tightened. What about her? Will she be a problem? She's already a problem, but I'm handling it. He lifted her hand, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. Her family owes mine significant debts. They thought a marriage alliance would erase that. I've made it clear it won't. If she approaches you, call Minji immediately. You think she'd hurt me? I think desperate people do desperate things. His eyes darkened. And I'm not taking chances with you. That evening, they returned to the penthouse to find it filled with flowers, dozens of arrangements, all white roses, all with cards bearing the same message. Congratulations on your new pet. I hope she survives longer than the last one.
Why?
Sungjun's rage was immediate and terrifying. He swept the vases off surfaces, glass shattering, water pooling across marble floors, his control fracturing in a way Happy had never seen. Minji appeared instantly, gun drawn, scanning for threats. Get these out of here, Sungjun snarled. All of them. And find out how the hell she got past building security. Who was the last one? Happy asked quietly once they were alone, once the flowers were gone, and Sungjun stood staring out at the city, like he wanted to burn it down. What? The card said the last one. Who was she talking about? His shoulders tensed. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. He turned, and the pain in his eyes nearly broke her. Her name was Jiwoo. She worked at a cafe I frequented 5 years ago. We dated briefly, nothing serious, at least not for me. But Yuna found out. She had Jiwoo's cafe burned down, sent her threatening messages, made her life hell until Jiwoo left the country. I didn't know until it was too late. His hands clenched into fists. That's why I kept my distance from people after that. Why I didn't let anyone get close. Until you. Happy crossed to him, took his face in her hands. I'm not Jiwoo. I'm not running. And I'm not alone. You've given me Minji, security, this fortress. Yuna doesn't scare me. She should. His forehead pressed against hers. She should scare you, because she has resources and connections and absolutely nothing to lose. Then we'll make sure she loses more if she comes after me. Happy kissed him, fierce and claiming. Together, remember? We handle this together. By the end of the week, Yuna made her move. Happy was having coffee with Nia at a cafe near the office, Minji watching from a nearby table, when Yuna slid into the booth uninvited, all designer clothes and calculated smiles. So you're the distraction, Yuna said, looking Happy up and down with barely disguised contempt. I have to admit, I didn't expect someone so ordinary. Nia started to stand, but Happy touched her arm, keeping her voice level. And you're the bitter ex who can't take a hint. We all have our roles to play. Yuna's smile sharpened. You think you're clever. You think because Sungjun keeps you in his bed and buys you pretty things, you're special. But you're not. You're a phase. A rebellion against his responsibilities. And when reality sets in, when he realizes keeping you means risking everything he's built, he'll do what he always does. He'll choose power over love. Is that what happened to you? Happy leaned forward. Did he choose power over you, and now you're bitter about it? He was promised to me since we were children. Yuna's mask cracked slightly. Our families are empires. It was supposed to be destiny. Then his father died, and suddenly Sungjun thought he could rewrite the rules. But you don't rewrite decades of planning, of alliance building, of strategy. You don't throw it all away for some girl who'll be dead within the month. Minji was moving before Happy could react, but Happy held up a hand, stopping her. Is that a threat? It's a prediction. Yuna stood gracefully. Sungjun has enemies who would love nothing more than to hurt him through you. And unlike me, they won't play nice. Enjoy your coffee, Happy. It might be your last. She left in a cloud of expensive perfume and malice. Jesus Christ, Nia breathed. That's who Sungjun was supposed to marry? She's terrifying. She's desperate, Happy corrected, but her hands shook around her cup. There's a difference. That night, Sungjun came home to find Happy waiting, and she told him everything. His fury was cold, controlled, more dangerous than any outburst. She threatened you. It wasn't a question. She predicted my death, which is different. Not to me. He was already on his phone, rapid Korean flying too fast for Happy to follow. When he hung up, his expression was carved from stone. Yuna's family has been embezzling from the Alliance Fund, money meant for mutual protection, bribes, operations. I've had my accountant digging for weeks. Tomorrow, I'm calling a meeting with the other families. By the end of it, the Kim family will be expelled from the Alliance, their assets frozen, and Yuna will have much bigger problems than you. Sung-jun. She crossed a line. He pulled Happy into his arms, held her like she might disappear. I told you I'd burn the world down for you. This is me keeping that promise. The next day, everything exploded. Sung-jun went to the meeting, left Min-ji and 2 other guards with Happy, and promised to be back by evening. Happy tried to work, to stay distracted, but anxiety crawled under her skin like insects. When her phone rang with an unknown number, she almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. Hello. Happy. The voice was male, unfamiliar, speaking accented English. You don't know me, but I know you. And I have a message for Han Sung-jun. Her blood turned to ice. Who is this? Tell him the Jade Serpents send their regards. Tell him we're coming for everything he loves. Starting with you. The line went dead. Happy's hands shook so badly she dropped the phone. Min-ji was there instantly. What happened? They called. The Jade Serpents. There, Happy couldn't finish, couldn't breathe. We need to call Sung-jun. Min-ji was already dialing, already moving Happy toward the panic room Sung-jun had shown her on the first day. Get inside. Don't open this door for anyone but me or him. Understand? Happy nodded, numb, and let herself be locked inside a reinforced room with supplies, weapons, and a direct line to Sung-jun's phone. She called him with shaking hands. He answered on the first ring. Happy? What's wrong? They called. The Jade Serpents. They said. Her voice broke. They said they're coming for me. The silence on the other end was more terrifying than any shout. Then, low and lethal. Stay in the panic room. Min-ji is there? Yes. Good. I'm coming home. 15 minutes. Don't open that door for anyone. I love you, Happy. Hold on. The call ended. Happy hugged her knees to her chest, counting seconds, trying not to imagine what was happening outside. Then she heard gunfire. Sharp cracks, shouting in Korean. Min-ji's voice raised in command. Happy's heart tried to climb out of her throat. More shots. Something heavy hitting the floor. Silence. Then footsteps approaching the panic room. Happy. Min-ji's voice strained. It's me. I'm opening the door. The locks disengaged. Min-ji stood there, blood on her shoulder, 3 bodies visible in the hallway behind her. We need to move. Now. More are coming. Happy's training kicked in. Sung-jun had drilled her on this, made her practice. She grabbed the go bag, followed Min-ji through the penthouse, stepping over bodies, trying not to look at their faces. They made it to the service elevator before the next wave hit. Min-ji shoved Happy inside, pressed the button for the garage. Get to car 7. Black SUV. Keys are in it. Drive to the safe house. You remember the address? Yes, but I'm staying to slow them down. Go. Min-ji pushed her, and the elevator doors closed on her determined, blood-streaked face. Happy wanted to scream, to refuse, but she was already moving, muscle memory and adrenaline taking over. She found car 7, started the engine with shaking hands, and was pulling out of the garage when the building exploded behind her. Not the whole thing, just the top floors, a controlled detonation that sent smoke and flame into Seoul's sky. Happy sobbed, pressed the accelerator, and drove through streets that blurred with tears until she reached the safe house address Sung-jun had made her memorize. It was a modest apartment in a working-class neighborhood, the kind of place no one would think to look. Happy stumbled inside, locked every lock, and collapsed against the door. Her phone rang. Sung-jun. I'm here, she gasped. I made it. Min-ji, there was an explosion. I know. I saw. His voice was rough, barely controlled. Min-ji got out. She's hurt but alive. Happy, listen to me. You did everything right. I'm so proud of you. I'm coming to you now, but it'll take me 20 minutes. Can you hold on that long? Yes. She was crying, couldn't stop. Sungjun, I was so scared. I know, baby. I know. But you're safe now. You're safe, and I'm coming, and no one is ever going to hurt you again. I swear it. She believed him. God help her. She believed every word. Sungjun arrived in 15 minutes, not 20, bursting through the door with wild eyes and blood on his suit. He swept Happy into his arms, checking her for injuries, his hands shaking worse than hers. You're okay, he kept repeating. You're okay. You're alive. You're here. They tried to kill me. The reality was hitting now, shock giving way to terror. They broke into your home and tried to kill me. And they failed. His voice turned to steel. They failed, and now they're going to pay. Every single one of them. He pulled back, cupped her face, and the promise in his eyes was absolute. I'm ending this, Happy. Tonight. The Jade Serpents, Yuna, everyone who's ever threatened you, they're done.
How?
I'm calling in every favor I'm owed. Every alliance, every debt, every connection. And I'm going to war. He kissed her, desperate and claiming. But first, I'm making sure you're protected. You're staying here with a full security team. You don't leave. You don't answer the door. You don't do anything until I come back. Understand? Don't go. Her hands fisted in his jacket.
Please.
Let someone else handle it. I can't. The raw pain in his voice broke her. They came after you in my home. They crossed every line. If I don't respond, if I show weakness, you'll never be safe. They'll keep coming until one of them succeeds. This ends tonight, or it never ends. Happy knew he was right. Hated it, but knew it. Promise me you'll come back. I promise. He kissed her again, softer this time. I promise, and I always keep my promises to you. He left her with 4 guards, weapons, and a phone with a single number programmed in his. Happy sat in the safe house, listening to the sounds of Seoul outside, and prayed to every god she'd ever heard of that he'd survive the night. Hours crawled past.
No calls.
No updates. Just silence and her own spiraling thoughts. Then, near dawn, her phone buzzed. A text from Sungjun. It's done. Coming home. Happy's knees gave out. She sank to the floor, sobbing with relief, so profound it hurt. He was alive. He was coming back. Whatever he'd done, however he'd ended this, he'd survived. When he walked through the door an hour later, he looked like he'd walked through hell, bruised, bloody, exhausted beyond measure. But alive. Beautifully, impossibly alive. Happy ran to him, and he caught her, held her so tight she couldn't breathe and didn't care. It's over, he said into her hair. The Jade Serpent's leadership is dead. Yuna's family has been expelled and exiled. I've reinforced alliances with the families that matter and eliminated the ones that don't. You're safe, Happy. You're finally safe. She pulled back, looked at him. What did you do? What I had to. No apology, no regret. I told you I'd burn the world down for you. I meant it. Did you? She couldn't finish the question. Yes. He wouldn't lie to her, wouldn't pretend. I killed the men who gave the order to hurt you. And I'd do it again without hesitation. Happy should have been horrified. Should have run. But all she felt was a fierce, primal satisfaction that the people who'd tried to kill her were gone. What did that make her? I love you, she said instead, because it was the only truth that mattered. I love you, and I'm not going anywhere. His kiss tasted like blood and victory and promises carved in bone. Later that morning, after they'd returned to the penthouse, clean now, repaired, secured with even more layers of protection, Sungjun made a confession. I can't do this anymore, he said, both of them wrapped in blankets on the couch, watching the sunrise paint Seoul in gold. The life I've been living, the constant violence, the paranoia, the knowing that anyone I care about becomes a target. I can't ask you to live like this forever. Happy's heart stuttered. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm stepping back. Not completely, The organization needs leadership. But I'm delegating more, reducing my direct involvement in operations, focusing on the legitimate businesses we've been building. I'm making myself less of a target, which makes you less of a target. You do that?
For me.
For us. He turned to face her fully. I want a life with you, Happy. A real one. Not this constant state of siege. I want mornings where we don't check for bombs. Nights where we can sleep without guns under our pillows. A future where we're building something instead of just surviving. Tears slid down her face. I want that too. Then marry me. The words fell between them like stones into still water. Not because of alliances or arrangements or strategy. Because I love you. Because you're the only person who's ever made me want to be better than what I am. Because when I picture the rest of my life, you're in every moment of it. Happy's breath caught. Are you serious? Completely. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a ring, a simple band with a single perfect diamond, elegant and understated, and exactly her style. I had this made 2 weeks ago, before everything went to hell. I was waiting for the right moment, but I've learned there's no such thing. There's only now. So I'm asking now, Happy, will you marry me? Yes. The word burst out of her. Yes, absolutely yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. Which it had. Because this man, this beautiful, dangerous, complicated man, knew her, saw her, loved her enough to change his entire life. They sealed it with a kiss that tasted like the future. The wedding happened 3 months later, small and private, with only people they trusted absolutely. No press, no spectacle, just family, both the blood kind and the chosen kind. Mia was Happy's maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony. Minji, recovered from her injuries, stood as one of Sungjoon's groomsmen and didn't cry, but looked suspiciously emotional. Happy wore a dress that made Sungjoon's eyes go dark with want, and he wore a suit that made her weak in the knees, and when they said their vows, every word was a promise they'd already proven they'd keep. I vow to protect you, Sungjoon said, voice rough with emotion. To choose you every day. To build a life worthy of the love you've given me. To be the man you see when you look at me, even when I can't see him myself. Happy's vows were simpler. I vow to stay. Through danger, through fear, through everything the world throws at us. To be your light when everything feels dark. To love you, all of you, even the parts you think are unlovable. To choose us, always. They kissed as husband and wife, and the small gathering erupted in applause. The reception was held at the penthouse, now fully restored and somehow feeling less like a fortress and more like a home. There was food, laughter, music, and dancing. Sungjoon never let Happy leave his side, his hand always finding hers, his eyes tracking her like she was the only thing in the room worth seeing. When they finally had a moment alone on the balcony, stars bright over Seoul, Sungjoon pulled her close. Happy, he said, and the name had never sounded more like a prayer. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. For staying. For making me believe I could have this. He gestured at the celebration behind them. I never thought I deserved happiness. Then you walked into my life and rewrote everything I believed about what I could be. She kissed him, soft and sweet. You deserved it all along. You just needed someone to show you. And you're that someone. His hand drifted to her stomach, where their secret lived, discovered just last week, too new to share but precious beyond measure. You and this little one. My family. My everything. Happy covered his hand with hers, tears of joy sliding down her face. Our everything. 6 months later, Happy gave birth to a daughter with Sungjoon's dark eyes and her bright smile, and they named her Jihai, which meant wisdom and grace. The moment Sungjoon held her for the first time, Happy watched the last of his walls crumble, watched him fall completely and utterly in love all over again. She's perfect, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. She's absolutely perfect. She's ours, Happy corrected, both of them staring at the tiny miracle they'd created. Our perfect little girl. Life wasn't always easy after that. Sungjoon's world still had dangers, still had enemies who tested boundaries. But he'd meant what he'd said about stepping back, about prioritizing family over empire. He delegated more, trusted his people, and focused on building legitimate businesses that could sustain them without the constant threat of violence. Happy went back to writing, the dream she'd set aside, and published a novel under a pen name that became a bestseller. She split her time between motherhood, writing, and occasionally consulting for Sungjoon's legal businesses, using her law office experience in ways that didn't involve criminal activity. They bought a house outside Seoul, still secure, still protected, but with a garden where Ji-hai could play and space to breathe. The penthouse remained for when they needed to be in the city, but home became the place where they could be just a family. Years passed. Ji-hai grew into a bright, fearless little girl who had her father wrapped around her finger. Happy and Sungjoon celebrated anniversaries, weathered challenges, and built a life that neither of them had thought possible. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Sungjoon surprised Happy with a trip back to Ghana to meet her extended family, to show them the life she'd built and the man she'd chosen. Her family welcomed him with open arms. Once they got over the shock of their quiet niece marrying a reformed Korean mafia boss, and Happy watched Sungjoon charm her grandmother, play with her cousin's children, and fit into her history like he'd always belonged there. "You're happy," her grandmother observed one evening, the two of them sitting on the porch, while Sungjoon entertained a crowd of children with magic tricks. "Truly happy." "I am," Happy admitted, watching her husband, her heart so full it hurt. "I never knew it could feel like this." "That's because you found someone who matches you." Her grandmother squeezed her hand. "Someone who sees your strength and doesn't fear it. Someone who makes you brave enough to claim the life you deserve." Happy thought about the girl she'd been, the secretary who'd woken up in a stranger's penthouse, terrified and lost. And she thought about the woman she'd become, married to a man who'd burned down his old life to build a new one with her, mother to a beautiful daughter, living a story she never could have written alone. "He saved me," Happy said softly. "No, child." Her grandmother smiled. "You saved each other. That's what real love does." That night, lying in bed in her childhood home with Sungjoon's arms around her and Ji-hai sleeping peacefully in the next room, Happy made a silent vow to never take this for granted, to never forget how hard they'd fought for this peace, to choose love and courage every single day. "What are you thinking?" Sungjoon murmured, half asleep. "That I'd do it all again," Happy whispered. "Every scary moment, every danger, every impossible choice. I'd do it all again to end up right here with you." He pulled her closer, pressed a kiss to her temple. "Me too. Every time. In every lifetime." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other, wrapped in the life they'd built from ashes and love and sheer stubborn refusal to let the world break them. And in the morning, when Ji-hai climbed into bed with them, giggling and demanding pancakes, Sungjoon looked at Happy over their daughter's head and smiled. A real smile, full and unguarded and bright with joy. "Good morning, Mrs. Han," he said, like he did every morning, like he'd never tire of saying it. "Good morning, Mr. Han," Happy replied, like she did every morning, her heart full of everything they'd survived and everything they'd become. Outside, the world kept turning. But inside this moment, inside this family, inside this love that had conquered everything thrown at it, there was only peace and happiness. Always, always happiness. Thank you for listening and watching this dark romance journey. If you enjoyed Happy and Han Sungjoon's story, please like, share, and subscribe to Afrokorea TV for more passionate tales of love conquering all odds.